Hello, welcome to the third episode of Hopeful Tech.
Hey
We
guys.
are once again live with Ronnie.
Hi, how is everyone doing? Yeah, so this has been actually a very active week in terms of what's being reported in the tech world because we have looming the yearly worldwide developers conference in San Francisco, which is the yearly event by Apple, and that's where they have the big keynotes where they talk about all the stuff they want to be releasing. So I thought I'd kick off this week by talking about some of the things you can anticipate at the show. And obviously, right, first and foremost is the iPhone and iOS platform. So one of the things we know for sure, well, almost for certain, is that they'll be releasing iOS 9, which is an upgrade to the current platform. And the word out on what iOS 9 will be is that it's, for the most part, a performance upgrade to iOS 8. Not a lot of new features will be on it, but I would imagine there would be a lot of stability updates because, to be frank, ever since iOS 8 was out, they introduced a lot of new features, right? And as a result, as a side effect of that, performance and stability has actually, unfortunately, been an issue. So, for example, on my iPhone right here, one of the biggest issues I've been having is ever since they introduced the third-party keyboards on iOS, it's been extremely unstable. Keyboards would pop in, and they would not pop up, and in general, there'll be a lot of skippiness. My music would stutter, and a few things like that. So, and Apple has received a lot of complaints, and they have talked about they've acknowledged some of these issues, and that's one of the things they want to do is fix these issues.
But do you actually use a third-party keyboard, or are you having issues in general just because they've enabled support for such stuff?
Yes, exactly. Because they have enabled support for such stuff. Because they're kind of, so they need to compete with what's out there. And as soon as Tim Cook came on, one of the first things he said was he wants to open up Apple. He wants Apple to be more open. And support for third-party, not only keyboards, they even support third-party plugins and third-party, like, for example, now you can use LastPass with Safari, which was something you couldn't do before. And I believe because they open it up, it's introduced more bugs, more stability issues. So I believe that's one of the things they want to fix in iOS 9.
It's interesting, but one of the things that has always been an issue in the whole Microsoft versus Apple versus Linux debate was that, Linux is so much more stable, but as has been proven clearly by Android, and now I think in a certain way by iOS, once you start opening things up and you have a lot of support for any app that anybody can make and any plugin that anybody can make, then stability just takes a total nosedive, doesn't it?
It totally does. And that's actually one of the reasons why I'm kind of almost disappointed that Apple decided to be more open. One of the beauty of Apple has been they've been kind of closed, and that's what made their app, just work, right? And obviously not anymore. Even forget the iOS platform. Look at the Macs, right? Macs nowadays crash much more than they used to. Everyone's complaining, and that's because just they're being more open, they're introducing much more features, and Apple has an issue in terms of, they're opening up. I believe, Steve Jobs is probably rolling in his grave right now, seeing third-party keyboard support. He would not approve of this.
And
but
this even in the situation that they still control hardware. I mean, you still have just a couple of Macs and a couple of a couple of iPhones.
Yeah, exactly. So and this is something that they really need to get back on it, because one of Apple's niches was that they just work. The software was super stable and they were proprietary. Everything was proprietary. So, but anyway, they're trying to balance. They're trying to balance it all. They have a product to sell, so they want to be able to compete with everyone. So they open things up. But now we have this issue, and I believe this is what they're going to tackle. So one of the biggest topics of iOS 9, I believe will be stability and performance, not so much new features, new apps, or anything like that. So that's on, that's on the iOS 9 side. On the software side of it. And obviously we have hardware, and in terms of hardware, obviously, nowadays when you talk about Apple, it's mostly iPhones, right? iPhone hardware. So I believe they will not actually announce any new iPhone hardware this time, because that's what they usually reserve for in August or September. Now,
But
again,
But it would be interesting if they revise the MacBook, though. I mean, the new MacBook, because it's really a very interesting device. But clearly, the one they launched last time was a 1.0 device, and they need to, change some things around. For example, I couldn't possibly understand why they only had one port, not two such ports. If you notice, the Chromebook Pixel, which came out after that, had two beautiful USB-C ports. One to the left and one to the right, so that you could, plug it in any which way, and you had one extra port.
I completely agree, and I think they should have had at least one extra port. But Apple is known to make some unpopular sacrifices, and I'm not sure if they'll introduce another port. They'll probably find a reason to try to sell you an adapter for it, like they often do.
You mean an $80 adapter for it?
Yes, I mean an $80 adapter. But yeah, so certainly they will have that. They'll probably talk, some more. They'll talk some more on the USB-C thing, which is kind of the thing they had a big say in driving to the market. Almost, I'm sure. I believe there was another device that called it out. I think it was Google Chrome, right? That came out with it like a day before Apple announced it on the latest MacBook. But anyway, they'll be talking about that, and they'll probably say how they want to integrate USB-C into more of their products, and hopefully the iPhone at some point.
Yeah, it's interesting how I don't know if you noticed, but just I think in the past week, Intel announced the new Thunderbolt standard, which uses a USB-C connector. So basically, it shows the versatility of this connector. You can just have anything run through it, and I think this will probably be the way forward for Apple as well. They'll just use some of Lightning's features, which they have now on iPhone, but through a USB-C connector.
Yeah. Yes, certainly. However, Intel did also say that Thunderbolt won't magically work on USB-C, even though it uses the USB-C interface. It would, the hardware you plug it in would still need an underlying Thunderbolt support, likely like a Thunderbolt enabled controller. Right.
That's true, but the beauty of it is that you could have one controller, and depending on how the hardware manufacturer makes it, they can do that. I mean, before they couldn't do something like that.
Oh yeah, no, I agree, and I think that's the way going forward, right? You have one port to rule them all, and it makes so much more sense, right? We really need to figure that, have one port for everything, and I think USB-C seems to be paving the way for that, which is a good thing.
Yeah, and actually one other thing I saw this week, which seemed very impressive, these guys over at MIT managed to make a power delivery system through Wi-Fi. They call it power over Wi-Fi, much like power over Ethernet existed before. Of course, it only works for small amounts of power, but they're saying that they can enable Internet of Things devices, so little sensors here and there, which can be powered strictly by Wi-Fi sensors, which would be amazing and a huge breakthrough.
Oh, I completely agree. I think that would be superb, right? And we've seen some demos by Intel and a few other companies about wireless power before, but they've always been kind of clumsy, whereas you need some big device here and and your wireless power enabled device there, and they shouldn't be so apart from like a so and so distance. They should be within so and so distance, but having it integrated into Wi-Fi seems to make a lot of sense. I mean, I do wonder how much power they have, how much capacity they have, but that's certainly something to keep an eye out for.
Well, they said they used modified routers, so routers they can just buy right now. They modified those, and I think it was somewhere in the region of a few meters of distance, so not very far, but pretty decent. I mean, we're not talking about centimeters; we're talking about meters.
Oh yeah. In that case, it's that would be pretty decent, right? Because I mean, in a regular household, you don't want to be a few meters apart from your Wi-Fi router anyway. So that could work if it could charge, and especially with Internet of Things devices, right? These are small devices, and it would be great for them to have power without being plugged in. So yeah, that'll be certainly something to look forward to.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I can imagine your Amazon Dash button being charged this way, which would be pretty cool.
Which I mistakenly pressed earlier this morning, and I had to come to my Amazon account and immediately cancel the order before it was shipped. So just a little update on that while we're at it, right?
I think you know where this is going, right? They're going to have soon an Amazon button for pizza and whatnot, and some guy's going to show up to your door in a couple of hours.
or maybe a drone will show up with a pizza, right? um, anyway, yeah. So that's what we have on the hardware, and there are a lot of rumors of Apple announcing the Apple TV in some form. They've been going back and forth on this. That Apple will announce Apple TV, Apple will not. They're having issues trying to get TV channels to come into agreement with them. But
Yeah,
that
I
seems
saw they were saying that they're not really ready for it. That might be a reason why they won't release it. They're saying that it's still unfinished, or at least unfinished content wise.
Yeah, a lot of the issues seem to be content-wise, where they couldn't get agreements done, and you know how it is, right? With the TV industry, that's always an issue. But the thing with the Apple TV is the rumors are, this rumors actually has some basis in someone found some code and some software that specified that the Apple TV will actually become part of the HomeKit, which is Apple's solution for a smart home control appliances.
Yeah, but much like a Google solution, it seems that at least for a while after they announced it, they kind of abandoned it. I mean, it's been announced for I think over a year now or something like that, and nothing has been done about it.
Yeah, well, so Apple had a few things they announced when they first announced it. They had HomeKit, HealthKit, and a few other things. And I feel like they've been focusing a lot on HealthKit, which was trying to use your iPhone as a health surveying device, and not a lot of publicity was there on HomeKit. But just last week, a slew of HomeKit devices came out. A slew of company announced HomeKit enabled devices. So I guess that was in preparation for this Apple announcement. Again, we don't know for sure, but
Yeah,
science.
I saw something like that. I think I guess the issue is that whereas with HealthKit, Apple can just do their stuff by themselves because you just need your iPhone or whatever, your Apple Watch. With HomeKit, they have to convince a whole bunch of companies to invest in the ecosystem.
Right, exactly, and naturally companies will be a little reluctant to do that. But let's be honest, right? No one has a clear solution for that yet. Not Google doesn't, Apple doesn't, and no other company. There are a lot of devices that are like very independently managed, but people want a central solution, and hopefully Apple can convince them that they are the solution, and hopefully they actually have a good solution, right?
It feels like we're in the era before IBM introduced their PC, whereas everybody has their own little proprietary thing going on, and they don't communicate with each other, which is pretty stupid to do in 2015.
I completely agree. It reminded me, it kind of reminds me of the time in the early '90s when everyone was starting to implement the TCP stack, so everyone could communicate centrally via the internet. But yeah, so hopefully we have that down, and maybe ultimately, we will come to a point where all devices have a same, HomeKit language, so to speak, so that regardless of which platform you are, it's all cross-compatible, and you can choose to be on Apple or Google or whoever else comes into play at that point in time.
Yeah, probably something similar to what the automakers were doing with support for both CarPlay and Android Auto, right? I mean, those
Exactly.
just like the bets.
Exactly. Yeah. You have support for both. That's another way for sure. So yeah, that's what's going on in the Apple world. iPhone not this time. Apple TV maybe, MacBooks maybe, and they'll touch on the Apple Watch for a little bit. I'm sure updates on the software SDK, what it has done, and all of that.
Speaking of which, are you tempted to get an Apple Watch?
I am not. Some people might find it surprising for me, but and a few reasons for that, right? So there have been a lot of these wearable tech devices out there, and when Apple was rumored to be doing this, I had high hopes for Apple because the thing with these wearable tech is they're really basic. They do the most basic things like, hey, your heart rate, and some of them do your temperature. Not even very many do your temperature, but I wanted something more advanced. I want a device that can actually see my blood oxygen levels, blood sugar levels, and we know that there are ways to do that non-intrusively. And Apple unfortunately came out with a device that didn't do much other than just measure your heart rate.
Yeah,
And
I
if
think I think if they want to have more success, they need to create something like the iPhone, which was a giant leap forward technologically. I mean, like nobody had the touchscreen that the iPhone had in 2007.
Exactly. And I think they kind of missed out on that. Though what they have going for them is, the UI is nice, it's all very smooth, it integrates with iPhone very well. They might have that, but Google also kind of has that. But yeah, the reason I don't have one is because I think it's still a very version 1.0 device. I would like something that can do much more than just check my heart rate. And rumors are that Apple actually was going to go for a device that would do all these other kinds, that would check for all these other kinds of things in your body. But the technology for things like checking your blood oxygen levels or other things is not there yet. Apparently, they weren't able to get good quality hardware for that. So I guess they're leaving that for the next version. But I think version 2 will be something I'd be interested in.
Yeah, it's interesting that so far the most feature-packed versions of any wearable, technology-wise, seems to be the Microsoft Band, which has a whole bunch of sensor built in there. But the only problem with the Microsoft Band is when you look at the damn thing, it's not something anybody would want to wear. It's extremely clunky.
Actually, so my colleague has one. My colleague Brian, he has one, and he swears by it, and I've seen it. And honestly, it doesn't look very bad. It fits pretty well, and I'm almost tempted to get one. There have been a few times there, I've gone to the Microsoft page and almost ordered it, because it's honestly it's not very bad, and it has a really functional touch screen on that thing. Lots of apps over there, and you can scroll, and it integrates really well with the Microsoft app on on the Windows Phone. I'm not sure if they have an app for Android yet, but
they do. They have it for Android too. But I'm just wondering about one thing. Why would you want to watch a scrolling display like that?
Good point. That's I didn't think about that. I think that's a great point. But then on the other hand, you're not gonna use the scroll screen, the touch screen very often on that thing. I think it's meant more for quick glances, like, oh hey, some notifications, or what's my heart rate right now, right? But the reason I like it is because it has a lot of sensors, and one of the stark contrasts between the iPhone and the Apple Watch is the heart rate sensor on the Microsoft Band, is always on. It's always seeing your heart rate in real time, whereas the Apple Watch only does it once every so often. So as a result, one of the cool things that my colleague Brian does is he always looks at a sleep graph, and the Microsoft Band can actually tell you what time you started sleeping, what time you actually woke up, what happened in between, what was their heart rate while you were sleeping. So I think it's a really featureful device. I've been tempted to get one.
Yeah, but sleep-wise, it seems quite big. I mean, if I want to keep something on while I'm sleeping, it should be something no bigger than a Fitbit, I would think, just so it's comfortable.
I agree, and that's one of the things I asked him. Is it comfortable to sleep with that thing? I feel like it would take me a while, some getting used to. And he said it hasn't bothered him. So, but I agree. I would like something smaller. The smaller, the better, right? And I think that like we talked in one of the first episodes, I think in the end we're going for technology that will be integrated into our bodies, right? Like an implant or something.
True. And right now, I think one of the issues with wearables is definitely battery life. And I'm not asking for a week of battery life, but I would like to have 24-hour battery life, because what you want to do is just plug it into your whatever before you get to sleep. I don't want to plug something necessarily during the day also, because it's just very inconvenient.
I agree, and I think that's an argument for battery technology in general. We are just not there yet, and it's annoying, super annoying. I think Microsoft Band lasts about a day or so, from my colleague's experience. Apple Watch certainly is not there yet. I think you still need to charge it every at work and at home and overnight. And that's certainly an issue. And hey, maybe Wi-Fi power might be something that'll solve that eventually.
Yeah, I would hope so because right now all the chargers for all these wearables are pretty weird, and it's just not something I'm used to taking off my watch all the time to charge it. It's really weird.
Yeah, I know, I completely agree. And it kind of defeats the purpose of these devices, right? These devices are on your body to monitor whatever's going on in your body, and you don't want to take them off because it's not doing what it's supposed to do at that point.
Yeah, for that, speaking of body integration, they would need to, tap into our own power supply so that cells can power them.
Yeah, I mean, hey, think about it, right? We have a minuscule running dam in our bodies. That's blood vessels. That's blood running through all time. So you can use motion, convert that to energy, and you have energy. So and not only that, we also have resistance and electricity, and we carry current in our body. So I don't see why the body cannot provide some level of power. I'm not sure if it will be enough for devices, but if they can make devices efficient enough to run on body power, I think that'll be great. I'm sure they're working on it already.
I just wonder though how this would work. I mean, if something would be quite power hungry, let's say you have a built-in Apple Watch in your body, and then you don't get some sleep for a while, you forget to eat, and then you're very tired. And does that mean that you get even more tired, and the Apple Watch sort of sucks your body dry?
Oh, that's funny. Oh, that's funny. Hey, yeah, why not? And then on the other hand, right, if you want to overclock your device, you have some Red Bull and your body's all pumping blood throughout, and suddenly your watch is working faster than it should.
Yeah, that would be interesting. Like you want to play a game on your phone or something, so which would be also part of your body, like your arm or something. And let's get some Red Bull and get some extra frame rates in there.
Oh, that's so funny. Yeah. Hey. That opens up so much more venues for the kind of future modifications we'll be seeing, right? So yeah, this week is all about the WWDC, and I think we'll wait to see tomorrow. It's tomorrow. I've been waiting this whole week for Monday to come by, and it'll be really interesting to see what Apple comes out with, especially because it's coming right after Google's announcement that we had recently. And one of the big topics is Tim Cook just came out saying bashing Google for being completely intrusive and very intrusive to your privacy. And Apple, that he's been trying to say that Apple actually cares about their privacy. So there might be some special focus on the privacy topic this Monday, which is tomorrow.
Yeah, that is an aspect we're thinking about. But the problem with privacy in this case is that if you want something that really works and really gets used to your habits and knows your typical routes and all this sort of thing, it will invade your privacy. And I think Apple, by saying this, is just trying to cover for the fact that their online services are nowhere near as good as Google's, and it's because they don't invade your privacy as much.
That's a very good point, and I believe there is some truth to that. But on the other hand, they do have a point, right? With Google Photos, all their photos are uploaded. Granted, Google can do really cool thing with Google Photos. I installed Google Photos right away, and just like a day later, I got a notification that, hey, a new movie has been made. And what happened was Google actually compiled all my photos and videos to this trip I had at the Everglades in Florida with the crocodiles, and it compiled, this beautiful video filled with, a bunch of photos and videos that I took with some music that they added. It was great, I couldn't deny that. But on the other hand, it's true that it might be going a little too far. So it's a hard balance to keep. I would like to see what Apple announces in combat to that.
Yeah, I also tried Google Photos this week, and while the free storage is great, there is one aspect which I don't like, which is the organization features. They just don't work as good as they should, because, for example, right, I was going from a folder structure before, and they just uploaded all my photos that I was previously using on OneDrive. Actually, I just made a copy on Google Photos, and yeah, the folders were not kept. I basically just had like a huge amount of photos by date only. And well, it's true that they did something similar to what you said. Like I had a trip, and they compiled most of the pictures into that trip. I don't think that solution is perfect, because maybe you took a picture which is from that trip, but which they didn't capture, and it just it's not as well organized as having an actual folder or a very good tag that you can put in. And I don't really want to retag all my photos right now.
Yeah, that's a valid point. And no, like in general, also, I think the app also not there yet, right? They claim to have this feature where you can search for, let's say, a dog, and you'll have photos of all dogs show up. Well, that's not how it worked for me. I searched for cars, and it had a photo of a picture I took of a bottle of cognac from a friend to see. So yeah.
Well, maybe it was something you should not use while in a car or something.
Maybe. Hey, who knows what Google's thinking, right? But anyway, so yeah, that's what's going on. So it'll be interesting to see what's up, and that's all I have this week.
Okay, and next week we'll do our post WWDC follow up to see what if any of this actually came true.
Yes,
all right, so this was the show for this week, and
that's the show for this week. Hope you guys enjoy the show. Keep an eye out for WWDC, and then we'll see you next week.
Yep. Have a good one.
Bye.